Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My name is Rusudan Kemularia. I'm the head of the Tax Inspectors Without Borders Secretariat, and I'm pleased to open the session on the TIWB, namely making a difference for developing countries through practical hands-on assistance. So we are very excited to welcome some esteemed speakers to talk about the OECD UNDP joint initiative. But before the short presentation, I will provide and invite our guests to provide their experiences with the TIWB. I would like to thank our donors and partner administrations supporting the initiative. So let me start with the quick update on the main achievements. Next slide, please. So TIWB revenue impact so far, you know that the initiative was launched in 2015 in Addis Ababa, the international conference, and started with a few pilot projects and programs. And today the TIWB span 56 jurisdictions with 55 current and 58 completed programs. So we have demonstrated a great result through the TIWB programs, and you see the real impact, which is over 2 billion USD in tax collected, and also over 5 billion in tax assessed through across the world. So our main focus remains in Africa region. However, we see a very positive trend, and we deliver programs in different regions such as Latin America and Caribbean, Asia and the Pacific, and Eastern Europe. And you see the quantitative impact in these regions. So, so next slide, please. Yes, so I just want to announce that we will very soon introduce the e-learning module, which will be interesting for our new experts to onboard the experts. And we have more than 50 experts registered under the UNDP roster expert pool, and also 23 partner administrations supporting the initiative. As you know, we are delivering our work on the transfer pricing, also criminal tax investigations, practical implementation of automatic exchange of information, also expanding to new areas such as the helping the countries implement Pillar 1 and Pillar 2, which is a part of the taxation of the digital economy, and also expanding to the auditing of the VAT on digital trade. So next slide, please. You have all the contact information of the Secretariat, and I see the number of the participants, so it's more than 400, which is excellent and great, and we're delighted to share our experiences so far and hear from our host administration, partner administration representatives, and also the UNDP country office about the benefits and about the impact, not only the quantitative, but also the qualitative impact, which is enhanced capacity within the tax administrations and increased compliance. So I think this is all about the short briefing and also some housekeeping rules before I will invite speakers. So during this session, if you would like to submit questions to the Secretariat or our speakers, please send this via chat to Kalale Mambwe, to our TIWB project manager via chat. And we will endeavor to respond via chat or at the end of the session. So now I'm very delighted to invite Dr. Esther, Director, Department of International Taxation, Inland Revenue Board of Malaysia, to Dr. Esther. So first of all, thank you very much for your time, and we are delighted to have you as a speaker at the TIWB session. So I don't see the Dr. Esther. Is Dr. Esther joined us? Dr. Esther.
Can you see me? I'm here.
Brilliant, brilliant. I see you now. So thank you very much for joining and for your time. So I will start with the first question. So Malaysia is participating in the TIWB pilot programs on the digitalization of tax administration. So why do you think the TIWB approach will work in this area, and what has been your experience so far? Over to you.
Thank you, Rusdan, and good evening to all. Yes, I must say that Malaysia is really, really very fortunate because not only we have one TIWB pilot project currently running, but two pilot projects. So with regards to the TIWB pilot program on digitalization of tax administration, Malaysia was very happy to take this program on, and thank TIWB because this project involves e-invoicing, and our partner jurisdiction is Chile. Malaysia is currently considering the implementation of e-invoicing, and when this TIWB came and offered to us this project, we thought this is really a very good platform for us to take, and I'm very happy to tell you, Rustan, that we, through the collaboration with our partner jurisdiction Chile, we were able to convince the government to implement the e-invoicing in Malaysia. So we are still working currently with Chile in their hands-on experience in implementing the invoicing in Chile. They have introduced the invoicing for many years, and we have done not only done the online meetings with them, but there is also a very high-level on-site visit done by our head of administration to Chile, where they met with the head of the tax administration in Chile as well. So it's really a very good engagement with Chile. The support provided by the TIWB and UNDP for the success of this project is seen from our ability to see the benefit and how this project will benefit the tax administration and the government as a whole, because we are seeing this this e-invoicing as one of the ways in which we could digitalize our compliance. We could also improve the voluntary compliance and improve the compliance by design. So it's something which I think is very workable. The TIWB platform is a good platform for even for this kind of project where high level of commitment by the tax administration to ensure that the objective of the project really is achieved. So I'm very glad to the support that is given by the TIWB, and we hope that at the end of this project, not only we were able to convince our government about this implementation, but we are also looking forward to the continued cooperation with the Chile government, Chile tax administration in terms of our design in the IT platform. Thank you. Over to you, Rustan.
Thank you, Dr. Esther. It's really great to hear, you know, that first of all, we started this pilot thanks to Chile, and also we have to mention that we cooperate with FTA, with Forum for Tax Administrations, and running this project together under the TIWB. And I'm glad to hear that there are a progress, and we planned on-site missions, so which will definitely demonstrate bigger results. And as you said, it's mainly about, it includes the invoicing element, but it's about the high-level strategic advice to the high, you know, level commissioners, and to advise the government. So, and this is the scope of the TIWB pilot programs, and we're glad that one of beneficiaries is Malaysia, and to announce that we have currently ongoing 4 programs. So, and we do hope that we'll have more, you know, requests coming this year and beyond. So it's great to see these results. Another question will be about another pilot project you just mentioned, so which is on the automatic exchange of information, right? So in what way does Malaysia benefit from assistance under the TIWB automatic exchange of information program? What are the challenges and what are the progress to date? So if you can very briefly elaborate on this, that would be interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Again, Rustan, we are working with HMRC in the pilot of CRS information. And we have started in the late 2021. So at the time, of course, the challenge was for an on-site visit because of the COVID travel restriction. So a lot of our discussion was mostly online. But when it comes to really looking into the actual cases, it is quite important to actually have a face-to-face meeting with the experts, and that has taken place in 2022. So there has been a lot of progress since. We were focusing mainly on the offshore trust account, which we needed the capacity, the expertise from the UK, and they have provided experts, and they have come over to Malaysia and working together with our auditors in real cases. Of course, in the part of the TIWB project is also to ensure that confidential information is protected, and we are able to do that with even when we are working on real cases. And I'm glad to inform you that there is probably another one more on-site visit that is going to be taking place this year, because there are still ongoing cases. Some of the cases undertaken last year has been completed, and very complex cases are still being undertaken right now. And we really benefited from this project because the learning experience is really fast track. We have leveraged on the expertise of the partner jurisdiction, in this case, the UK. So thank you very much to TIWB for getting us this support.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Dr. Esther. So indeed, I think the countries, especially the reciprocal countries who are receiving the information and exchanging, and they have a confidential infrastructure like confidentiality instruments in place, they can benefit from the TIWB programs. And you know, the Malaysia is a pioneer in implementing this project. And you mentioned one of the critical elements, which is working with the confidential, you know, data, and the TIWB initiative allows, this is one of the key features of the initiative, that why it's so successful and critical tool in the implementation of the and treatment of the CRS data. And here maybe I have to mention that we're closely working with the Global Forum and coordinating with them, because you know that the Global Forum is responsible for transparency agenda and the implementation of the international standards. But TIWB really steps in at a very later stage when the country needs to actually practice implement the information and data they are receiving. So, and I'm glad that Malaysia is already benefiting, and invite other countries which are reciprocal to request the assistance. And we thank the HMRC providing support on this niche program. So thank you very much, Dr. Esther. I see that the questions are sent via chat, but we will have a dedicated Q&A session, and we'll come back to you with questions on different areas we discussed, the digitalization and automatic exchange of information. So please bear with us. So now I'm delighted to another speaker, Ms. Petra Jacobsen, so International Director, Department of Large Business and International Swedish Tax Agency. Petra, we're delighted to have you as a guest speaker today, and thank you very much for your time. So I will start with my first question. How does the Swedish Tax Agency, as a partner administration, benefit from the TIWB programs? Over to you, Petra.
Thank you very much. And thank you for having me. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone. And I would say two things first. Congratulations to the fantastic results at the tax inspectors. And I would also like to comment on Malaysia's very interesting pilot projects. We really would like to hear more about that. So I would like to just start with a short background that we in the Swedish Tax Agency, we have worked with different international cooperation projects all over the world since 1985. And it is our international Office for International Projects that are responsible for the implementation of the capacity building work on behalf of the Swedish Tax Administration. And we are used to adapting to the needs and contexts and cultures of our partners. So I just want to give a little the background of Sweden's development strategy in order to get maybe a better platform to what I'm saying afterwards. But we have democracy in the world that is in decline, and it limits people's influence over political decisions and the powers of their lives. And so that is why democracy, human rights, and gender equality are the areas in which SIDA, the Swedish International Development Cooperation Agency, invests the most. And the work contributes to increased freedom and openness for the people living in countries where democracy and human rights are restricted. So Sweden's development, Sweden's policy on development is decided by our government and our parliament. And this is the basis for our work. And SIDA, as I said before, is the one who actually is funding our work within tax inspectors. And so I just for the platform, Sweden is committed to Agenda 2030, and we're also committed to Addis Tax Initiative. And the Agenda 2030 states, you all know that, that the activities shall contribute to capacity building through strengthened institutional capacity. And the Addis Tax Initiative is mobilizing a significant increase in domestic tax revenues in partner countries. So what I would like to say with this is that tax inspectors without borders share many of these same objectives, which is important for us in order to fit the program into our own into our way of working, so to speak. So tax inspectors have the assistance works to generate improved quality and consistency of tax audits and sustained improvement in tax audit skills. And this goes hand in hand with Agenda 2030. And the rise in level of voluntary compliance by taxpayers and potential increase in revenue collected goes hand in hand with the ATI, Addis Tax Initiative's goals and main focus. So this is very good for us. But with all this said, I now want to come to the main question. How do we benefit from tax inspectors? First of all, I would like to say that this is a fantastic way of working together. It is, and I think, in my opinion, it's probably the simplicity that makes it stand out. The beauty of the format of tax inspectors is that it is an effective and well-defined mission. You work hands-on in real ongoing cases, as Malaysia also said before. There are clear demands, both on the host organization and the donor organization. We have distinct incentives for keeping pace on the investigations going forward. For us, it is also easy to plan because the resource demand is well defined. It is also a good way of getting to know the other tax administration, and this could actually even lead to that we identify other needs that in the long run could result in cooperation in other areas. Furthermore, we definitely have a mutual learning, both from our side and the other side. And I'm not just talking about the hardcore competence. I also talk about on a personal level, and sometimes even on an organizational level. And finally, I would just like to point out that the quite new possibility to work more digital actually has led to a higher degree of efficiency, and it has also probably helped us to speed up the digitalization in both countries. So thank you, and over to you.
Thanks a lot, Petra. I think indeed, this is the learning opportunity at different levels for, I think, for both partner administrations and host administrations. And I think this is what we have seen. And as I mentioned, 23 partner administrations are currently supporting the initiative. We invite the new partner administrations, which are advanced and having the resources to deploy the expert for the TIWB, the programs. We're keen to really, cooperate. And I think this is what makes a difference for developing countries, where we have a great and good cooperation, right, on the global and on the also domestic level. So where we can also identify another needs, and we don't overlap, rather, complement and make sure that the countries can utilize these resources effectively. Dear Petra, I have another question for you. So I think you already gave us the background, and you talked about the main pillars, which is democracy, the human rights, and gender balance. So what sets TIWB apart from other type of technical assistance? You said that it's a demand-driven, it's demand-driven, it's hands-on assistance, right? So do you think there is anything we can do better? So it's really great that we hear all this, great compliments, or the not only the compliments, but the results speaks for themselves, right? So the figures and the current programs demonstrate good results. But what do you think? What are the challenges on what we can do better? So maybe that would be interesting also to hear from you. Thank you.
I actually don't have a lot of things that you can do better, but I think the path that we are going on, I say we, because I think we kind of do it together, even if you are crucial, of course, and essential. But I would say, like, what we are doing right now in exploring a further variety of the different areas, I think that's a great way. And I think all these pilot projects going on to see like this format can work very well, not just in the audits, but a criminal tax investigation, and we are talking about the digital transformation, and there are several more areas I know that you are exploring. We have two ongoing projects in tax audit, but also one pilot project with Sierra Leone with transformation, digital transformation. We're looking into the maturity model, and I think to go on here, because you have all these positive things I was talking about, the hands-on, the easiness and all that. And I think exploring the areas is a very good way going forward. I was thinking about one thing that we are in together with Norway in Kosovo. And I think also that is new for us, at least, that we're trying to work to, or not trying, it's not hard, but that we're working together with Norway together with the third country. I think this can also give more, so to speak. So I think that is interesting. Maybe that happens in a lot of cases, I don't know. So that's my answer, and thank you very much to the Secretariat. You are also definitely a key to this success, I could say. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Petra. I think indeed, we will explore further, and I mentioned that we definitely will try to help countries to implement Pillar 1 and Pillar 2, and immediate work will be done on the global minimum tax to implement these tax laws, because you see that it's moving very fast. And also, indeed, you mentioned very good point, which is collaboration between Swedish and the region tax the authorities. And I think this is another great example of a good cooperation, right, where we can actually mobilize all our resources and embed, in the coordination, right, so the countries and the developing countries can benefit and make best of use of all the resources available. So without overlapping, rather cooperating and combining all the experiences and the competencies, the both administrations. So I think that will be excellent learning process for us also, and this might have a spillover effect for the other regions and the partner administrations. Again, thank you very much for your insight, and please bear with us. There might be questions for you, and we'll come back to you later. Thank you. So now I'm very much delighted to invite Commissioner Joseph Nonde, Commissioner of Direct Taxes of Zambia Authority, and I would like to thank you personally for joining us at a very last-minute call, and we appreciate your willingness to speak at the Tax and Development. Unfortunately, Minister of Finance and Economic Development, Zimbabwe, Muli Nukbe, was called for another meeting, and we'll not hear from him, but we're delighted to have Commissioner from Zambia to talk about experience, the Zambia experience from the TIWB programs. Commissioner, first of all, thank you very much for your time and willingness to accept our last-minute invitation. So we're delighted to have you at this panel. And I would like to ask you a first question. How has the TIWB programs helped the Zambia Tax Authority to mobilize domestic resources and build other important capacities? Floor is yours.
No, thank you very much, Secretariat, for inviting me to speak. And good morning and good afternoon to all who are on the call. I'm grateful that I have an opportunity to share some of the experiences that we've had as a country from the Tax Inspectors Without Borders program. So as a country, Zambia, we have received a lot of assistance from the program. And obviously, as you know, we're a developing country and we've been eager to develop the capacity and skills in managing the much diverse and ever-changing environment in international taxation. So our experience with the TIWB started way back in 2012 when we had some assistance and experts came in to assist us. A number of things were raised and indicated to us where we needed to pay attention to raise domestic revenues. And one key issue which was indicated was the need for us to have a dedicated unit for international taxation. So on the basis of the advice, we opted to have a dedicated team for transfer pricing, which over the years has been handling international taxation issues and particularly transfer pricing. So what we've seen from our side is that there've been a remarkable improvement in the skills of the auditors in areas of international taxation, specialized skills which under normal circumstances wouldn't have developed on our own. And in the nature in which this program operates, where you sort of provide practical assistance in addition to training, has even worked so well because the blending of experts and the local auditors has helped the teams to audit very complex cases. And as we speak, we now have audit officers who are able to handle complicated cases, and a lot of good results have come from this. In fact, now as we speak, most of the huge assessments that we've had to do as a country in terms of domestic taxes come from international taxation, and they come from auditors in the transfer pricing unit. And I feel that the progress that we've made wouldn't have come our way without the assistance from the Tax Inspectors Without Borders program. Now, the program itself and the way it's designed helps not only the tax administrator. The goodness is that once the auditors receive the skills practically, okay, they tend to develop the confidence and when they start dealing with multinational companies. And as they do that, okay, they send a message that they know what they're doing. And that fosters a good relationship with multinationals in that they start engaging on a highly technical level, and that saves time for both the tax administration and the multinationals, who of course, as we know, have their own teams that are set up to manage transfer pricing. And we've seen improved relationships in that where we insist that we're going to sort of raise assessments, we're going to stand by our determination and so forth, it's because we have a good basis and a good footing. And that's where we feel that a lot of benefits have come our way on account of this program. So we're very grateful actually by the approach, and I would want it to continue in that manner where you blend the practical aspect of it together with the training so that the work can even yield more benefits to Zambia. So as we speak, our auditors are well-rounded, most of them, and they're doing very well. But besides that, we've also received assistance in terms of improving legislation. This is something that we haven't done in a long while. Obviously, as we know, you cannot do successful work without having legislation which is updated. And we've received assistance in that regard as well. Our transfer pricing regulations are ones that were done with the assistance under the program. We had experts who assisted us to come up with those regulations. The country-by-country reporting regulations and laws that we've put in place also is because we've been receiving assistance under Tax Inspectors Without Borders. So we feel that we are beneficiaries not only on the basis of the experts that we have, the expertise that we've given to our officers, but also on improving the legislation. So a number of things, of course, need to be done, and we continue receiving this assistance, especially on specialized areas, and we are grateful that this is coming our way. So that's the kind of experience we've had as a country with tax inspectors without borders. Thank you, President.
Thank you, Commissioner. I think you elaborated a key actually impact through the TIWB program. So you just mentioned that the transfer pricing unit was established, which is the organizational changes, right? So which is very important to hear from our host administrations. It takes time, after the TIWB program is delivered until we see some, long-term results. And I think the quantitative, like revenue impact, is critical and important, but the main objective of the initiative is really to build capacity within the tax administration. So, and as you rightly said, so it can be a game changer, not only for, the tax administration, but also for the taxpayers, because they know what to expect from you, right? To build a trust, to increase the compliance. And we're glad to hear that, the Zambia are benefiting from TIWB programs, and we have currently ongoing program, sectoral one, as you mentioned, and we do hope that we will achieve a great result there in terms of quantitative and qualitative. Legislative changes, as you mentioned, and the identifying the gaps and the needs are critical, although that the TIWB is a very niche assistance where we really focus on a hands-on practical assistance. However, this helps us to coordinate with the broader network and within the OECD and with other international tax players to make sure that the countries receive the assistance needed at the tax policy or the tax administration side. So Commissioner, I have another more broad, I would say, question, if you don't mind. The mobilization and effective use of domestic resources is essential to pursuit of a sustainable development. So how is the tax avoidance affecting the Zambia capacity to finance its public investment needs and achieve the SDGs? So if you can very briefly elaborate on this. Thank you.
No, thank you very much for the question as well. Like you rightly said, domestic revenue mobilization is very critical because it provides the basis on which the country and the treasury in particular would decide the critical services that need to be provided. In a country like ours, the sustainable development goals hinges mostly on dealing with the reduction of poverty, improving service delivered to the most vulnerable in the community. And unfortunately, where we are, they are in the majority. So a lot more focus is given on programs that specifically support the alleviation of poverty, ensuring that those that are able to can be provided with basic needs to sustain their livelihoods. We're a country that has arable land, and we need to do a lot of growing of crops, but then people don't have the capability to do that. They lack the inputs, they lack the expertise and guidance, and government has come in to ensure that probably you can provide basic inputs to support them so that they can sustain and reduce the poverty levels at a micro level, particularly in the household level. And besides that, of course, education is key for us, and we need resources to deal with that. And so is the need for us to improve the healthcare in the country. So all these hinge on domestic resources, okay? And I must say here that what then is needed for us is to ensure that we get as much resource to channel to those important and needy areas. But what has happened is that when you then look at the resource envelope that we have, the revenues as a percentage, tax revenues to be in particular as a percentage of GDP is quite low when you compare to where we want to be. So maybe just to talk of the numbers, for example, last year we were at about 18% of GDP, but we know that when we benchmark with our other jurisdictions, particularly South Africa and the others in the southern region, they're at 21%. So we keep asking ourselves, why is there a gap that we can't get to 21% of GDP? Why are we still at 18%? And when you drill down to understand the problems, you begin to understand that there are a lot of things that are not being done right. And that's why we need to develop capacity to deal with. So tax avoidance is one such thing, and that's one area we can point to. Particularly, we're in a country where most of the investment in key sectors is driven by multinationals, and obviously they do aggressive tax avoidance schemes, and they plan well. And if we don't stop that, we start having our tax base being eroded, and that is something that we need to address. I feel personally that for any jurisdiction to improve the revenues as a percentage of GDP, you cannot increase that if you don't pay particular attention to the tax avoidance schemes that most of the investors and multinationals are doing. It's very important to address that. So to improve on tax administration also requires the skill to ensure that we start reducing the tax gaps that are there, which are perpetrated mostly by the tax avoidance that is being done. So in our view, we feel that it's very important for us to focus more on domestic revenue mobilization, and we need to address key areas which particularly curbing the avoidance schemes that are there. We can have the law, and we've had so many laws that we've had to put in place, but we need the skills and we need the support to ensure that we start identifying those schemes and put a barrier so that those that are doing anti-avoidance or those that are doing avoidance schemes don't start doing it aggressively so as to start eroding the tax base. So that's what I can say, but I strongly feel that yes, tax avoidance is something that we need to address if we have to increase our revenue to GDP going forward.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Indeed, I think you raised a very important and critical point, and especially that, we have to avoid aggressive administration, rather educate the taxpayer and also, build the, the trust and increase the compliance through the informing, through the effective decision making. But for this, we have to understand what are the key problems, right? And identify the gaps, as you mentioned. And I think the TIWB is one of the effective mechanisms to help you to actually identify the gaps, and also the initiative, as you know, underpins OECD G20 BEPS base erosion and profit shifting actions as part of a broader international effort to effectively tax multinational enterprises. So, and we do hope that through the TIWB programs and other programs provided out with, support of the other donors and international players, you will be able to effectively fight tax avoidance. So with this, thank you very much, and please stay with us. We'll have a questions, we'll have a Q&A question, and we'll invite you. So if they will be addressed, to you. So now I would like to invite our last speaker for today, so we're, as you know, the joint initiative of the UNDP and OECD. We're thrilled to have our country office representative in Honduras, Mr. Richard Barrett, with us. We're delighted to have you, Richard, and thank you very much for joining us today. So I would like to ask you, what are the key challenges faced by countries regarding development financing, and how taxation and technical assistance programs can help governments achieve the SDGs? Over to you.
Well, thank you, Lusudan. I'm very happy to be here today and to share this panel with such a distinguished speakers that have preceded me. And so, yes, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, bonjour à toutes, bonjour à tous. I want to speak about a situation that's not exclusive to Honduras, of course. It's just, this is a country that is facing a multi-crisis, a significant set of crises that influence enormously the revenue streams. On the one hand, Honduras, of course, is facing a financial crisis. There's a debt that ranges above already 60% of GDP. It's facing a crisis of violence. I mean, historically, Honduras has had homicide rates that have reached even 85 per 100,000. Now it has been brought down to 35, but it's still 7 times higher than what's considered by WHO as an epidemic level of crime. Is a country that's one of the most affected countries in the world, with an increasing level of disaster, natural disaster, climate-related events, more intense, more frequent. Is a country that is facing, that is also facing a food crisis. I mean, 2.6 million people, which is nearly a quarter, a little bit more than a quarter of the population, is facing food insecurity. Is a country that is also facing significant levels of corruption and impunity. I mean, the justice system can only process, I mean, there's a level of impunity on homicides of over 90%. So you literally have 9 chances out of 10 to get away with murder in Honduras, which is dramatic. So there's other crises. I mean, the political one is one that affects enormously also sustained levels of investments. So what I want to say is that the public revenue is definitely insufficient to offset public spending needs, particularly very ambitious new administration that wants to improve access to basic services such as education, health, and so on and so forth. So on top and above all of this, I mean, you have levels of informality in Honduras that are enormous. It's nearly 80%. So that's a big challenge. And I have to agree with my predecessors, I mean, with our previous speakers on the importance of fighting avoidance, of fighting tax crimes, which is the area where this partnership with OECD and with Tax Inspector Without Borders have been focusing on. So one of the things that needs to be said is that you need to really improve the investment climate and also the set of incentives to improve formalization of the economy. And that cannot be done without fighting tax crimes, without fighting avoidance, and without improving the formalization rates. So there's plenty of ways of doing this. It's still very challenging because fighting corruption is never easy. And this is a multi-dimensional approach that has been needed. And of course, the TIWB partnership, has been really an instrumental piece of this. And it's building on a whole more comprehensive effort of digital transformation in the country. The new administration is committed to what they call República Digital, which is a digital republic. And as UNDP, we've also been supporting a broader approach on digital transformation, which is a robust means of accelerating and improving the quality and the transparency of many of these services, thereby creating a better set of incentives to formalization. So this is an ideal moment for this effort that is being supporting the tax administration authority in Honduras, and also the Attorney General's office, which is the public ministry, as they call it, to fight tax crimes. That's been the critical element of it. And it adds on new revenue streams. And again, Honduras is also particularly affected by national and international organized crime, drug trafficking, human trafficking, and of course, money laundering schemes. That is really setting a complex background to really implement this type of project. That's very much needed. Indeed. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Indeed, I mean, you underlined the key, the areas, and also, this fighting illicit financial flows and, the organized crime. I think we recently launched the TIWB CI program in Honduras to launch the forensic lab, which is a critical, right, a tool to, especially in this digital era, so to make sure that we effectively, fight tax evasion in this case. So, and maybe on this, if you can very briefly tell us, how are UNDP country offices, including the Honduras, assisting in the implementation of the TIWB programs on the ground? So because the country offices are instrumental for the TIWB to deploy the programs effectively on ground. So what are the mechanisms and how you are achieving this with us in, under the TIWB initiative? Over to you.
Well, I think one of the main assets, one of the areas where national institutions have really acknowledged the quality of the support has been that both, I mean, OECD and UNDP, we are global networks. We have helped them truly connect with those cutting edge thinking and best practices that are occurring worldwide. In particular, Honduras, for instance, one very relevant experience that they have been particularly interested on has been the Mexican one. Mexico has advanced enormously in many of these fields, and Honduras is really right now. This TIWB has facilitated that exchange. This was particularly appreciated. So combined with the access of robust and timely, I have to add, technical expertise, combined with the support that we also provide in more downstream activities, such as the specialized procurement of certain equipment, particularly if you want to really procure highly specialized type of digital instruments to fight tax crimes. You really need to be able to quickly respond with a suitable set of solutions that include, of course, hardware, softwares, and of course, human resources that are capable. And of course, all these setting up all these capacity development arrangements is not easy. And I saw in the chat some of the questions that were in that direction, saying, look, yes, of course, I mean, there's always a big rotation levels, particularly in countries like this, where you have a change of political color and then the whole team leaves almost. So I think a good investment is train a broader base of experts, but also rely on systems, rely on high level of software solutions, digital solutions that are also easy to operate. So I have to say that it's a combination of those substantive technical competencies that this partnership brings together, access to technology, and access to existing solutions that are relevant to the realities of these countries. And that type of connection, the more tax inspector with the borders supports countries, the richer the quality of the advice it will be. And this is why this initiative is so important for all of us. And it really fits in a broader strategy to leverage new innovative type of revenue. Because of course we're working on all these new type of SDG bonds, all type of new development finance, but really to ensure the levels of commitment of those that have sustained the revenue so far, which is a small percentage of the companies and the population. You really need to send the right signals to that population as well, which is the administration is also fighting avoidance, it's also fighting tax crimes, it's building credibility on the whole system. And this will hopefully contribute significantly to fight also informality, which is one of the biggest problems worldwide. I mean, according to ILO, it's around 35% of the global economy that is informal. So this is a lot, yes, and that's one of the main purpose of it.
Thank you, Richard. I think you addressed all the key areas where you as a country office provide assistance and as you mentioned, like a quick reaction to the needs on ground, which is a procurement of the the digital tools and the softwares which are important and critical to fight illicit financial flows. And we now, as I mentioned, launch this forensic lab program, and I do hope that we will do more with the support of the country offices in other regions. So thank you very much. So I see that our speakers are in a very effective manner addressing the questions in the chat, which is appreciated. Thank you very much. And I think that there is a few questions which, thank you, Dr. Esther, you have already responded on the invoicing, and also I think there was a question on the brain drain and how to sustain the programs and the impacts, right, through the assistance we're providing. And brain drain is an issue, and we've seen this in Kazakhstan, in Mongolia, and we were discussing with OECD colleagues internally also to have a dedicated session and have a specific stakeholders meeting to discuss the best practices, how to mitigate all these risks. I'm sure there are different models countries are using, and there is no one size fits all, but we will be discussing the brain drain issues at our stakeholders meeting, and we'll invite you to join this session and discuss this in depth. However, there is no universal solution to this, and I think that every institution, including the tax administration, are facing this problem of the brain drain and retention of the staff. So, and how can we sustain within the tax administration the capacity build, and also to sustain our programs and ensure that remain our qualified staff. So we can discuss this together with the tax administration and host administrations. So I think if there are other questions, so please direct them to the Secretariat, and we will provide written response. Unfortunately, we don't have much time. I think in the chat we have responded to the most of your questions. The brain drain issue was raised twice, and as discussed, the TIWB will have a dedicated session on this, I think in the spring or summertime. So we'll definitely put this publicly available for everyone so that we can have a discussion and see how much we can do there. So I think, first of all, I would like to thank you, our distinguished speakers, to reflecting on the TIWBs and sharing the experience. And we have heard different perspectives from the partner administrations, from Petra, from the host administration, from Dr. Esther, and also from the Zambia Commissioner, how they benefiting from the TIWB programs. So please request, so you know that the TIWB is a demand-driven initiative. If you think that you have a demand in your tax administrations, we are happy together with our partners at UN, UNDP, and OECD under the TIWB to provide the support under the TIWB initial assistance. We're grateful to our partner administrations to supporting the TIWB programs, and do hope that we'll have more partners supporting TIWB coming years, and the country office, which is instrumental to deploy the TIWB programs. And now I think so I would like to invite Mr. Ben Dickinson, head of the Global Relations and Development Division at the CTPA Center for Tax Policy and Administration at OECD, for the concluding remarks. Mr. Ben, over to you.
Thank you very much, Rusidan, and thank you to the panelists for their excellent contributions. In the couple of minutes remaining, let me just add only a couple of additional points to what you've already heard. I think the first thing is to say that TIWB depends on a multi-stakeholder approach, as Petra and others have made this point very well, that we have a fantastic secretariat, we have experts, we have UNDP playing their part at the country level, the OECD plays our part with expertise, we have donors, development partners, and administrations and partner administrations. And is only in this multi-stakeholder approach that helps us make this project to be so effective. I think the other thing to say is that lots need to happen around Tax Inspectors Without Borders for it to be able to work effectively. And there are many partners working on international taxation and on all other aspects of domestic resource mobilization who are essential in making the conditions right for tax inspectors to work, because it's a niche operation and there's many capacity building needs out there that need to be addressed that TIWB cannot address alone. And I'd like to give particular thanks to our many partners, and including particularly in Africa, the Africa Tax Administration Forum, who are an essential partner for this work. Then I think finally, we are spreading the wings of Tax Inspectors Without Borders. And as you've heard, the latest news is that we will embark on what I think is a major and ambitious program to support the implementation of the global minimum tax. And this is both exciting and daunting, but in coming weeks and months, we hope to be able to bring you more news about how the niche of TIWB can extend to that vital bit of the international tax architecture. So I can see the clock has run down completely, and another session begins almost immediately. So let me conclude by thanking everybody for their participation, and to the panelists for their excellent insights, and to the Secretariat. Many thanks, and hope to see you again very soon.